Hi, how are you? This is the Creative Mojo podcast, episode number 10. I'm Joanne, and a warm welcome to all of my returning viewers and to any new viewers checking out the podcast for the first time today. I'm really grateful to have you choose to spend a few minutes of your time with me while I talk about my knitting and other knitting related and crafty kind of things. So again, welcome to the podcast. Let's see, where am I going to start today? I should tell you, I'm coming to you from Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and it's a hot day today, hot for Alberta, Canada. Probably not hot if you live somewhere down in the southern US, but even the Midwestern US probably, but hot for here and hot early for here. It doesn't usually get this warm until really July, and so most of us here in Canada, I think in our homes, or a lot of us anyway, don't have air conditioning, at least in this part of the world, or this part of Canada, because it sort of seems silly unless you buy a brand new house that's fitted out with air conditioning when you buy it, to spend the money to have it installed when normally we maybe need it for 4 to 6 weeks of the summer. But I kind of have a feeling this is going to be a hotter one, since this is hot weather. It's 30 degrees or 31 degrees or something Celsius today. And that's usually temperatures we start to get into in July, is up into the 30s, mid 30s. So it might be a long hot summer this summer. We'll see. And so, as I said, we don't have air conditioning. Hopefully I have a fan on over there. Hopefully you can't hear the fan noise. But it's also, last couple weeks I was recording, it was kind of gray and hard to get good lighting because of being gray and overcast and rainy. And now it's kind of hard to get good lighting because I have a lot of the windows and the blinds and stuff closed to keep the heat of the day and the sun shining on the windows from heating up the house too bad. So it is what it is. What can I do? Anyway, where shall we start today? Let's start with a giveaway that I want to do. The lovely Sarah Hepworth, who many of you may very well know if you follow her on Instagram or Ravelry. She also has a blog called Sarah Made That. She's out of the UK, and she's a super prolific sock knitter. I'm always just blown away by how many pairs of socks she knits up in a short period of time, and all the beautiful socks that she always has on her Instagram feed. And she sent me a pattern for the Phoenix hat, which is a pattern by Sally Jane, who is Pink Hair Girl. It's Pink Hair Girl Designs on Ravelry. And she also has the Pink Hair Girl podcast. She's from South Africa, and she designed this hat. The proceeds for it all go to the Red Cross Children's Hospital burn unit, I assume in South Africa where she lives. And it's a really cute little hat, in fingering weight. And since Sarah was so kind as to gift me a copy of that pattern, I'm going to pass it on, and I'm going to gift a copy, not my copy, but I'm going to pass on the goodwill, and I'm going to gift a copy of that pattern to a lucky viewer. So I'll open up a thread in the Ravelry group. That's our Ravelry group under the name Creative Mojo. And if you're a member of the group, you can just go into that thread and just post. I'll show you the picture of the hat and talk a little bit more about it. But when you go into the thread, if you just post what yarn you think you would use to knit up that hat, and then next week I will draw a winner for that prize. So I'm going to use, it's a fingering weight hat, and here, I have my iPod here with a picture of it to be able to show you if it boots up quickly enough. It's a really, really cute little hat. Let's see if we can make this work. Can we get decent? Not too bad. Sorry, that's kind of glary, but you can see it's a very cute little hat in fingering weight with these sort of faux cables on it. And I'm going to use this really pretty Sun Valley fiber. It's balled up because I frogged another hat that I had knit a while back that was 2/3 done, and I had made some mistakes in it, and I wasn't happy with how it was coming out, and was a complicated enough pattern that it seemed like a pain in the butt, frankly, to figure out how to fix a couple of the mistakes that I had made. And I wasn't into it anymore, so it just seemed easier to frog it all. And so this has been sitting around, and I thought, this is a perfect opportunity to reuse this really, really lovely yarn for another hat probably, hopefully slightly simpler to knit. This is Sun Valley Fibers from my dear friend Jeanette in Wisconsin. She has beautiful yarn, and if you don't know her yarn, you should check it out. It's just lovely, and this is a merino cashmere silk blend. The color is Bliss, and it's really, really beautiful. I don't know if you can tell. You can kind of tell there's a great, it's a tonal, but there's so much depth in this tonal of these sort of rust, pinky, orangey red color, I guess. And really lovely and soft because, as I said, it's merino cashmere silk. So what could be better? So that's going to become this hat. And as I said, I am going to gift that to one of you. So please go into the Ravelry group and pop a little note to that thread as to what fingering weight yarn you might use for that pattern. And I will draw for that next week. So while I've got the iPod up and open, I'm going to show you another picture. Last week I showed a work in progress of my Daenerys Cookie A socks, and I didn't have the pattern or the picture with me. So I just opened up this picture. We'll see if we can get a decent enough. Oh, that's good, actually. That shows pretty good. These are just such beautiful socks. So I just wanted to show you those lovely cables running up them. They're sort of on a background of reverse stockinette. So anyway, I'm showing you that, but I haven't actually done any more work on them this week. I will show you what I have been working on this week, though. I do have 2 finished objects, which is very exciting. The first one is the hat I showed you last week. It's just a simple fingering weight hat, sort of in the style of a sock head. As I mentioned last week, I don't really follow the sock head pattern. I do a shorter cuff. It's more brim, I guess you'd call it. It's more like about 3 inches, and I also do a shorter head. It's still plenty slouchy, but it's not as crazy slouchy as a sock head is. And I do slightly different decreases, just a slight different bit of decreases in the top there. And this was 128 stitches cast on. And it just knit up beautifully. The yarn I used is some Gnome Acres Fancy Gnome, which is their merino cashmere nylon blend. It's, oh gosh, there's my phone, which I'm going to ignore, and we'll keep going. Sorry about that. I should remember to turn the ringer off before I start recording. In the Ginny Weasley base that this is, and it was just beautiful. I'm really happy with how this turned out. This is just going to go in my box of projects for either, as I said, I may do some craft sales around Christmas time if I have enough. I have a couple of these in there already, but I have enough. Otherwise, they will be probably gifts. And I had this much yarn left over. That's another reason why I said I think a true sockhead hat uses up quite a bit more yarn than this. I have probably not just less than a half, maybe even a half the ball of yarn left. So I may do some little fingerless mitts to match or something like that. I don't know. Anyway. So I have that finished. The other thing that I finished this week is the project that I was working on for our Late to the Party Cal. And if you are new to the podcast, we're running a Cal in our group. This is, it's a 2-month Cal. It started at the beginning of June, so you have, or sorry, the beginning of May. So you still have all of this month left to participate if you're interested. And the idea of that Cal is to, excuse me, take a pattern that has been knit many, many times by other people on Ravelry. And, sorry, I've got something in my throat. I think a little tiny bit of, feels like a little fuzz went down my throat from putting my yarn too close to my mouth, probably. That's what we all get for like squishing yarn to our faces and sniffing it and doing all those crazy weird things that knitters do with nice yarn. Anyway, I think that, oh, so the idea of the, sorry, lost my train of thought. The idea of the Cal is that it's a pattern that has been popular in Ravelry, has been knit up numerous times, but you've never done it. So you're late to the party on that Cal. And there's some examples of, there's a list. I created a bundle that's linked in that group, in the first thread. There's a group, there's a thread in the group on Ravelry, and in that first thread, all the rules are there for the Cal, how you join it, how you pick a project. I created a bundle with some examples of the projects. The idea basically is that it's a pattern that has more than 4,000 projects on it, with it on I'm having so much trouble today, and this is, I already started over once, just can't talk. Slow down, start again. The idea is it has to have 4,000 projects already listed on Ravelry, and 4,000 or more, and you have never knit it yourself. So that's the cowl, and I was working on a project for that cowl, and I finished mine. This is Zuzu's Petals by Karina Spencer. It's a cowl actually, but it looks like, as you can see, it's shaped to look like when you wear it, like it's a shawl, kind of a short shawl, but it's a cowl, a tube, so it stays on. Mine came out a bit small because I was a bad knitter and didn't really check the gauge of, I used hand spun, some of my own hand spun to make this. And I looked at it and went, oh yeah, that looks like it might knit up, that'll knit up to a sport weight for sure, haha. Some of it, the first ball that I had 2 sort of 50-gram-ish balls of it, and the first one was knitting up mostly, I think, towards a sport weight. But when I switched to the second ball somewhere early on into the lace, I think, it was definitely a fingering weight there, maybe even a light fingering weight. And overall, I think it would have been better if I had used a slightly heavier yarn, but it fits. I'm not going to try it on now because, like I said, it's hot here today. But it does fit me, and it looks quite cute, and it knit up really beautifully in the hand spun. The hand spun was from Cloud Lover. I had trouble last week saying that. Cloud Lover Fibers. She's not on Etsy. She has her own shop, I guess. I think I'll link it on the screen. It was a Winter Rose was the color, and it was a beautiful merino cashmere silk, and it really knit up beautifully, and it blocked out pretty nice. I blocked it a bit here to get some good stretch on the opening of it, and then I blocked it gently, just sort of enough to open up the lace. I didn't want to stretch it out too much. Anyway, so that's done, and I really enjoyed it. That's a lovely, nice, pretty, simple pattern. I would definitely knit it again. Maybe it's written up to be able to be knit in both a worsted weight and a sport weight, and I might try it again with a worsted weight. I think it would make a nice, cute little gift. It didn't take me too long. I put it down for a while kind of in the middle, but when I really kind of got to it, I found that the lace was reasonably intuitive. Not completely intuitive. I certainly needed to reference the chart pretty steadily, but it wasn't bad. So those are my 2 FOs for this week. And then I only have 2 works in progress. Other than those 2 things, the only other things that I worked on this week, knitting wise, were I put a bunch of time into these socks, which I don't think I've showed I know I didn't show them last week. I don't remember whether I showed them the week before or not. These are my 2 at a time socks, and these are quite fun because I'm doing, these are kind of a number of firsts for me. I think if I can get them done in time, I'm gonna put them into the Grocery Girls Fancy Feet cowl, because there's 3 new things here for me. First thing is, it's my first ever sock blank that I'm knitting these socks from. This is a lovely double sock blank from Gail's Art that was gifted to me by my really dear friend Pat. In the color Lady Sings the Blues, and first time I've ever used a sock blank, and it took a little getting used to, but I'm actually really enjoying it now. The only thing that's a bit of a challenge with a sock blank, particularly I think a double sock blank, is you're pulling these 2 strands of yarn, you can see, and they do, because they're kinky coming off the sock, they do twist up on each other pretty easily. So I spend kind of a fair amount of time untwisting my yarns, which slows me down a bit. But and then I'm doing them 2 at a time on 1 needle, which is also a first for me. I've never done this before. This technique I'm really liking, actually, and I'm really looking forward to trying 2 at a time without the kinky yarn, with just a ball of yarn divided up into 2 balls of yarn. So anyway, I got all the way through the legs on this. You can see how they're knitting up. They're really, really, really pretty. There's something deeply satisfying about knitting from a sock blank. I've heard lots of other knitters say the same thing. It's like something so enjoyable, and in some weird way, I think it has something to do with this texture that you get. This will probably block out more. I mean, I think sometimes people don't like it for this reason, but I think people who do like it, at least maybe I should say the thing I'm really liking. Shouldn't speak for all other knitters, should I? The thing that I'm really liking is this kind of texture. And as I said, it will block out a bit, but because the yarn is kinky, it gives you this kind of interesting little nubbly texture. I don't know if you can see that. And it just, I don't know, there's something kind of rustic in a really, really good way about it. Anyway, and it's fun to sort of see, you don't know how the colors are going to come out until you do it. So I'm looking forward to getting some more sock blanks and doing some more sock blank socks, I think. I've been putting off ordering them, but I think I'm going to have to order some more. So, and then the last thing I did that was brand new for me is Fish Lips Kiss Heel. And I actually really enjoyed that. I don't know why I hesitated doing that for so long, the Fish Lips Kiss Heel. I somehow thought it was going to be harder than it was. And it was not hard. I think I was just intimidated by how many pages are in the pattern, which is just silly. But it was easy to do once I kind of understood the basic concept. And it is very nice that the sock I showed last week, which was a short row heel, had those funny kind of gaps here that this doesn't have. You can see, which is awesome, makes me happy. Now we'll see how these fit. These are 64 stitches on a 2.25 millimeter needle. It may turn out, those are 64. I'm a bit of a tight knitter when it comes to socks. 64 is it is snug on me. I can wear 64 stitch socks, but they are snug. So we're going to see what this does with the heel and how snug it is across the top of the foot, because there isn't the extra room that you get when you have a gusset and heel flap. And I will try one of these on my foot before I get too far into the toe, because if they are a little too snug, I will just make them as a gift for my mother or my sister, who both have slightly smaller feet than me. And slightly, I think, slimmer feet than me, I should say too. My mother, I was the lucky one in our family that takes after my father's side of the family. So I'm the big girl in our family, and my mother and my sister are both tiny and slim and blonde, and I look like the Dutch side of my father's side of the family. Lucky me. But so they have smaller and slightly slimmer feet than me, and this would definitely fit them. So I spent quite a bit of time on that, figuring out the Fish Lips Kiss Heel and all that. Then the last project, which has gotten the majority of my knitting time this week, I think, is something that I can't really show you all of, unfortunately, which is the test knit that I'm doing for my friend Christine of the Yarnings podcast. I'm going to show you a little bit about it. I showed a little bit about it before. I just don't want to really give away the pattern until she releases it. But I'm really enjoying it. I'm test knitting it, and then there are a couple of other people test knitting it as well, and they are farther ahead than me. And so I've been really powering along and trying to catch up. I'm just trying to find the page that says what she's calling this shawl. The Superpower shawl, she's calling it, I think. I think she'll stick with that name. And her name is Christine Beeson. And I will let you know when this pattern gets released, because it's lots and lots of fun, and I'll be able to show it off at that point. But show you a little bit about it. So it's an interesting, unusual construction, which is really fun. I'm knitting the main kind of body of the shawl is this fantastic, all this great squishy garter stitch. And the two colors I am using for that are these. Kind of a dark plummy reddy, purpley red, reddy purple, whatever, and this lovely gray. This is Becoming Art. I have all those tags in here. It's Becoming Art 100. It's her Cielo fingering, which is 100% superwash merino in the colorway Drink Me, and the gray is Fiberfile, also 100% superwash merino in the colorway Mithril. So it's the Super Squish sock is the base. And then I've decided, it's written actually for two colors, but the patterns the colors, the two original shawls that Christine knit, and I think some of the ones that are being tested by some of the other knitters are one of the ones Christine knit was a solid or semi-solid and a pretty strongly variegated yarn, and the other one was a solid, semi-solid, and a gradient yarn. So there's lots of color play in there, and I'm using basically 2 semi-solids. So I realized I wasn't going to get the kind of color play that was there. So I decided instead to go with a third color. So I picked this up the other day, and it looks really, really lovely. As you can see with that, it's a lovely deep dark teal, maybe. I don't know what, I'm not sure what color you call that. They, well, yes, I do know what color they call it, because on the tag they call it, the color is adire, I think is how you say that, which is an African word for a fabric, dyeing fabric with indigo dyes. So that's, I would say that this is an indigo. That's what color it is. And it's just beautiful. This is Ancient Arts. Take that off. Ancient Arts yarns. She's a local dyer, although her yarn is everywhere now. I think they sell it. Sorry about the tape glaring there. I think they sell it at the online at the Loopy U. I'm pretty sure. You can also buy it online at her website, ancientartsfiber.com. I'll put that there. She's got great yarns, and her yarns are becoming super popular, which is very exciting for me to see. And this is 100% superwash blue face luster, BFL, for 437 yards. And as you will know, if you've watched been following me for a while on my podcast, I've been having a real love affair with BFL just in the last couple of months. So I don't normally mix fiber bases a lot in a shawl, but these colors just look so good together that I thought this yarn would be fine. So the way the shawl is constructed, you sort of knit the main body of it and the garters, and then there are a series of borders. So I will do the first little border in that, and then I will do there's a big lace sort of section border that I will do in that, and then finish it off with this. And I think it would be beautiful. So that's been getting a lot of my time. And sorry, it's a project that I can't show you more of, but soon. And let's see. So that's all the projects that I have been knitting on this week. I do have, what else do I have to want to show you? I do have some acquisitions. I think I did a little pity yarn shopping this week. If you watch the Stockinette Zombies podcast, you'll know that this weekend is the Zombie Knitpocalypse retreat in Rochester, Minnesota. And I've gone to that the last 2 years in a row and had a great time. It was just so fantastic. I think I've talked about it a bit on my podcast before, but it was so great, and I made so many wonderful friends, and it was really tough this year when I was actually registered to go, and then a couple of other things came up in our family. My family, specifically, we're going on a trip at the beginning of July, which is super exciting. My mother and my sister and her husband and my 2 nephews and my husband and I are all going together on a trip to Scotland for 10 days. This has been a dream of my mother's for a long time. That's where her father's family comes from, and we're going actually to Inverness, which is in the Highlands, and we're going to be in the Highlands of Scotland for the whole 9 days that we're there. And then my husband and I are also going to be away for once we come back from that trip. We're going to be out on the west coast in BC, and then actually down into Washington and Oregon a bit. He tours a lot in the summer, playing music festivals and teaching at music camps and concerts and different things like that. And I usually try and go with him on the road a bit in the summer when I can. So we're going to be gone for that. So between those 2 trips, particularly the trip to Scotland, which is expensive, as I'm sure you can imagine, I just felt like I couldn't justify also the trip to Rochester. I felt like I had to choose where I was going to spend my money, especially with the Canadian dollar being as crappy as it's been. So I angsted over it, and then I finally pulled out of going to the retreat, because not only was it more expensive than it had been the last 2 years for the airfare and the hotel and stuff because of the Canadian dollar, but the last 2 years, particularly last year, I bought a lot of yarn. Like, I freaked the guy at customs out when I came back and gave him my customs form, and he saw that I was declaring $500 worth of yarn. He couldn't believe that. So yeah, if I were down there this year, I'd be spending a lot of money on yarn again. So I chose not to go. And this has been a hard few days that most of the people arrived down there on Wednesday, and they're there through till Sunday. Today is Saturday. I should have said this way at the beginning. It's like June 4th today, Saturday. And there, I think most of them will leave and go back home on the 5th, on Sunday. So there have been lots of pictures on Instagram, and I've been seeing, you know, all the fun they've been having, and all my friends down there, and missing it a lot, and feeling a little sorry for myself that I didn't go. So, you know, when you feel sorry, especially when you feel sorry about missing a yarn event, go buy yarn. It's awesome. So I did buy a little bit of yarn this week. Well, actually, I guess, to be honest, I didn't buy as much as I think. I've got several things to show you, but I bought a couple of them. I bought the Ancient Arts that I showed you, and then I bought a second skein of the Ancient Arts, also the BFL fingering sock weight yarn. I just couldn't resist. I love this color. Love this. And I've been craving purple. I don't have a ton of purple for some reason in my stash, and I don't know why, but I keep craving purple right now. So I saw this and I couldn't resist. It's beautiful, like, you know, purple and cream, and then it goes all the way through from like light, the purples go from sort of light and lilac-y purple all the way through bright purple to dark to black, basically. It's so pretty. And the color is Angkor Wat. And Angkor Wat is a temple in Cambodia. And I'm not sure exactly how the color, I don't know how the color actually applies to that temple in Cambodia. I went and looked at some pictures online just to see if there was something that kind of gave me a clear idea. So I don't know how this ties in, but it's so pretty. So this will become for sure a pair of socks, I think, soon. And then I got a new bag in the mail. Now this was another purchase. I've been really enjoying finding and I've been really concentrating on Canadian products in the last little while for the most part. And I've really been enjoying finding new Canadian makers, yarn and other knitting related stuff, and sampling a bit of stuff from their shops. And I made a great little sort of bundle on Etsy or, you know, favorite group on Etsy of shops that I've been finding. And I'm hoping to order a bit more yarn. I'm trying not to go crazy until after the trip to Scotland, because I shouldn't be spending money that I should have for that trip. But I will probably order a couple more skeins of yarn from a couple more of those Canadian shops, some of them local here in Alberta and some of them other parts of Canada. But I'm really enjoying that. And I found a lovely bag maker. Her name is Andrea, and her shop is, see if you can see this, Twisted Daisy Fibers, and she is local here in Alberta. She's in Bonnyville, Alberta, which is up near Edmonton. And I bought this beautiful large size project bag from her. Isn't that the prettiest fabrics? There's a little tag there, and I think it's a good sweater size zipper bag. It's not super heavy duty, which I actually like. It's obviously got some interfacing in there, but it's not. I have some other bags that are much stiffer than this, and I kind of like the weight of this, and it's nice and big. I'll be able to put quite a bit of stuff in there. Like I think my shawl project is going to migrate from this. Right now it's being held in this really lovely, it's Brown Dog's bag. She's Brown Dog Bags, sorry, I'll put her link here too. She's Renee, lovely friend that I was with the last 2 years at the Zombie Apocalypse Retreat, and I bought this from her at the retreat, I think the first summer I was there. Nice bag, but it's getting a bit crowded in there for my shawl, so I think I will take the shawl out and put it into this fantastic bag. So I bought that. Can highly recommend it. Her prices were great, and it came quite quickly, and it's a lovely bag. Then I got one skein in the mail that is my skein yarn from Australia that I've talked about Kristen and skein yarn many times, and the fact that I belong to her yarn club, her fingering weight yarn club. I think was called the Color Club. I Can't remember if that's what it's still called or not. But it's just a monthly, you pay by the month, and she dyes up whatever she feels like, really, and sends you a skein of whatever she's felt like dyeing that month. And it's always beautiful. It's always beautiful. They're one of a kinds. They're not in her shop. They only go out to the club members. And I think, you know, it's where she has a bit of fun experimenting with color and stuff. So this is I'm going to take the label off so I can show this to you better. This was last month's. And it is, it's on her top draw sock base, which is her 4-ply merino nylon, 85% merino and 15% nylon. Lovely base, really soft. If you haven't tried her yarn, seriously, you need to try her yarn. Her prices are great. Her yarn is so beautiful. She is such an amazing dyer. I've been buying her yarn obsessively for like, I don't know, 4 years maybe. It has its own huge bin, put it that way. And in my, and I've sort of had to scale back because I could just buy her yarn all the time. I think I could buy her yarn and knit with her yarn kind of exclusively. She's got a bunch of different bases and different weights, and every one of them that I've ever tried was fantastic. I've knit garments out of it, socks, everything. But I've kind of scaled back because I have so much. So now these days I just get the monthly club, and then I go on her website and drool at all of her other stuff and sort of put stuff into my cart and then take it out. Because I have several sweater lots worth of yarn of hers as well as that aren't even in the bin that's full. So this is the beautiful color that came this month. This color is called Wonderment, and it is, as you can see, it's like hot pinks and tiny little speckles of blue, and you can tell there's blue and purple. There's like more, look at that, more speckly goodness down there. And then there's sort of darker color. Look at this. I'm going to open this right up. Even though I'm crap at rewinding these, but that's okay. Yeah, look at all the color in that. Look at how gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous that is. And there's like some sort of grays in there, kind of almost, and blue and pink and purple, and love it, love it. And that's the kind of stuff that you get always in her, do that later. That's the stuff you always get in her color club. And she does everything from all kinds of lovely variegates and really great speckles. She's master at speckles. And then solids and semi-solids and stuff. So again, I highly recommend. Skein Yarn, Australia, fantastic. Buy some. Then the last thing that I acquired was my dear friend Heather, who has the Knitting Go podcast. If you don't know her podcast, you should check it out. It's lovely. Although she hasn't recorded in a while. Heather, record. And she's downsizing. I don't want to talk too much about it because it's her story to tell, but she's moving. So she and her husband are moving out of Calgary in the fall, which makes me sad because I'm going to really, really miss her. But she's downsizing, and so she had a whole bunch of yarn and fiber and other things that she was culling her stash and getting rid of some stuff. And I think she's doing a destash on Ravelry, and she had some great stuff. So you should check it out. She's Rycrafty, RYCRAFTY, on Instagram and on Ravelry and all of that. And if you're interested in, especially if you're local to Calgary, if you're interested in some really nice yarn and fiber at a really good price and no shipping because you could arrange to go pick it up from her, you should check that out. And so she very generously I actually gave her a little bit of money for them. I couldn't take them for nothing. That seemed so wrong, but I took this gorgeousness. This is, believe it or not, this is Fleece Artist. I think this is the first Fleece Artist I have ever had, which seems crazy because Fleece Artist has been around for a long time. They're one of the sort of original indie Canadian yarns, I think. But I just love this, and these colors are, it's kind of a gray agrello, as they say, but it's also got all this green in it. It's great. So it's that like yellow, green, and gray. gorgeous. And it's a merino and kid and nylon. 70 merino, 20 kid, and 10 nylon. Now it says Cadazzle on it, and I actually don't know whether that's the base or the color. So anyway, isn't that pretty? Isn't that beautiful? I don't know what this will be, but I think really probably some really pretty socks. You know what I'm thinking? I've been looking at the pattern, the sock pattern that Debbie Reese from Periscoping Sisters has people test knitting right now. It's called, I think, Don't Touch Those Leaves, and it's going to be released soon. I think this would be really good for that. So maybe that's what that will be. And the other thing I got was, sorry, there's going to be crinkling here, was a braid of fiber. And oh, check out that. And I got this from her because she offered me a bunch of stuff, and I was very restrained and only took 2 things. I took this because I do have a small but decent fiber stash. A lot of it are the hobbly-hoy battlings I love, but I have some braids and stuff, but nothing that's a gradient. And I just was like, oh, those are such pretty colors, and it's a gradient. It'd be really fun to work on my Navajo ply or chain plying skills with that on the spindle. And that is a fiber. Gosh, my throat is so bad today. I don't know what's going on. I feel like I've been coughing and clearing my throat on the last few podcasts, and I apologize. I've been very I think it must be allergies. I have not really been plagued with too many allergies in the past, but I feel like I've had allergies this spring. So who knows? This is the beautiful fiber optic yarns. That's Kimber Baldwin Designs. And so this is it's the Thunder and Lightning gradient, and it's a merino silk. Show you that again because it's so pretty. So that was it. That is almost all my acquisitions. There were 2 other things. When I bought the Ancient Arts yarn, I was at Stash Yarn, which is one of our lovely local yarn shops here. Only it's actually walking distance from my house, which is bad. And while I was in there, I went there because I got obsessed with the idea of buying a 9-inch circular because everyone's using them, and I wanted to try them out. And I did get 2 9-inch circulars actually. I didn't bother to bring it over to show you because I cast on. I've got like 4 rows of the cuff of a sock, and those 4 rows took me a really long time. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do the 9-inch circular. Super slow, and feels like my hands feel like giant, ungainly giant hands with tiny little toothpicky needles. I haven't felt like that since I very first started knitting, I don't think. And my hands sort of cramp up because when you knit on 9-inch circulars, the actual needle tip that you have to hold on to is only about that big. I was showing it on my face, which is like, I don't know, 3 inches, something like that. Anyway, so I went and bought the 9-inch circulars. I am trying them out, and I will probably next week if I don't completely give in. And I don't want to give in. I want to try them at least enough of a sock to be worth it. So, but I picked up, sorry, just looking over, my neighbor is coming home, and I've got the front door open for some natural light over there. He can see in. He's looking at me like I'm crazy. Anyway, I'm in love with this. This is Ukuland's Rapture, and somebody else showed this on a podcast, and I picked it up because the smells so good. It's jasmine scented. Now, I'm not a big florals person. I have the lavender of this, and I really like that too. But as I said, I'm not generally a big floral scented person, but I tell you, like jasmine and there's 1 or 2 other scents. I can't remember what they are now. But anyway, this, if you like the smell of jasmine, honeysuckle is in that. It smells like honeysuckle as well to me. So, God, it smells good. I just want to wash everything totally in this and just sniff this all day long. So I picked up that, and as I said, my 9-inch circular. So that's that. The last other thing that I spent some time on this week is I did a bit more sewing. So I have a few more bags that are going up into the shop, and I was just going to show those quickly. They haven't got their ties in them yet, but it's totally cute Canadiana bag. There's a couple of those going into my Etsy store. I really love these ones, actually. I was going to do a sort of more neutral lining, and then I decided on this way more fun. You can see that inside. It's like pink geometric batik is what the lining is, with this fantastic bright hot pink sugar skulls patterns. Love that. A couple of those are going up. And then I did a couple of the Harry Potter print that I showed last week. And again, I did a kind of purpley hot pink lining in there, which actually works really well. Sounds odd, but when I laid them out together, I went, oh, that's actually really pretty. And the fabric is really fun. Each one of the bags has a little bit different of what the newsprint is, but they're all fun. And I experimented with, these are just ever so slightly, as you can see here, bigger than these. You can see they're a little longer. I just upped the size, and I actually like this new size a bit better, so I will probably be, from now on, going up a tiny bit in size on these. These are still the essentially single skein drawstring bags. So, and then I sewed a couple of each of those that are going in the shop, and I did a couple more that are going to go out as prizes to other podcasts and stuff like that. So I did a bunch of sewing. I was really enjoying it. And I have all my fabric out and sort of spread all over upstairs, much to my husband's displeasure. But I'm having so much fun, like starting to think about pairing things and doing some, maybe even more than 2 colors on one bag, that I just kind of want to keep sewing in. So I may do a little bit more this week before I cart it all downstairs and put it away. So speaking of bags, I talked about the, when I talked about the what is the word I'm looking for? The knit along. When I talked about the knit along, I forgot to mention the prizes, and I thought I would mention that since we're about halfway through that the knit along right now. There are 2 prizes at the moment. One is one of my bags in this lovely purple fabric that says, keep calm and carry yarn. So one of my bags, and a skein of Turtle Fiber Arts, which is also a local to me dyer, in this beautiful color called Rainbow Bright. So that's one of the prizes, and the other prize is these 4 skeins of Shibui Petal. I'm gonna have to look at an actual tag. I thought I could remember it now. Shibui Dune is the base. It's a 50% alpaca, 50% baby camel, and 50% silk. It's fantastically beautifully soft, this yarn, like so nice. And there are 4 skeins of it, in each one is 142 yards, so there's some pretty decent yardage there to make something really, really lovely. The color is, oh, maybe the color is Dune. Am I a big dummy? I think the color is Dune. The base, no, the color is Mineral, and the base is Dune. So, and there are 4 skeins of that. So those are the 2 prizes I have for the cow so far. I just thought I would remind you what those were. Is there anything else on my list that I did not talk about? Oh, I was going to mention that while I was doing all my sewing this week, I was listening to a couple of podcasts. And as I mentioned, I like to listen to podcasts on my phone, audio podcasts, while I'm sewing. And I generally do. I do have a few knitting podcasts, audio podcasts that I really like to listen to. But in general, I prefer video podcasts because I like the visual. I like to look at people's knitting and see what they're working on. So I kind of prefer that over audio. But I have a couple of I've mentioned before a couple of audio podcasts, and I discovered a new one. I was listening to Undisclosed, which I mentioned before as a podcast that I listen to a lot, really love. If you were a fan of Serial, especially in the first season where they talked about the Adnan Syed crime case, and you enjoyed that, then you should really listen to Undisclosed. It goes into that story in so much more detail, and it's really well done and very riveting. And they've essentially finished telling that story for now, because they really are caught up to where that case is to date. But they have continued on. They're preparing a second season following a second story, a second case. But in the meantime, they've also been doing a series of interviews with different people about different issues having to do with the justice system, particularly the justice system in the United States, although I'm not naive enough to think that many of these issues don't also probably apply in some way or another to the Canadian justice system. And perhaps some other countries, I don't know, but I suspect some of these things certainly apply in this country. And they've very much to do with social justice. And if you're interested in that, so through that, I discovered another podcast that's called Absolutely Innocent. And it is the stories of people who've been in prison in the United States, most of them life sentences, and eventually they were found to be absolutely innocent and they were released. The first story was about a guy who spent 17 years in prison for a crime that he didn't commit, that it was eventually proved that he didn't commit it. And they're riveting stories, and I was so moved listening to the first two episodes cover this guy's case, and I'm so fascinated by stuff like that. I've talked with Shannon of the Socksetra podcast a few times about social justice stuff, and I know she's really into that, and I am too, and I'm really into it from this kind of angle particularly, I think. So yeah, I listened to that. I highly recommend that. I'll put the link to it in my show notes. And I think that is everything for today, which is good because it's getting really warm in here. I need to go and I opened some of the blinds and curtains and stuff to get some decent light in here, but I need to go close that all up again and try and cool my house off a bit. I'm starting to schwitz a little bit. So that is it for everything for today. The show notes can be found in our Ravelry group under the thread for episode 10. And it says in the front, but I will mention anyway, if you can follow me on Instagram as AuntieJo12 and on Ravelry as AuntieJo. And thanks so much, and I hope that you'll come back next week. Bye.